I remember the moment I stopped laughing, the moment the joke turned into something else, something broken. It was 3 hours after we'd left Derek at that gas station in Colorado, and Madison was still laughing so hard she could barely breathe. "Did you see his face?" she wheezed from the passenger seat, slapping her knee. "He looked like a lost puppy." I laughed too, gripping the steering wheel of our rented SUV. But something cold was settling in my stomach. Just the 4 of us in that SUV, me, Madison, Britney, and Jade, hurtling down the highway like nothing was wrong. We'd been planning this prank for weeks. Just a little scare, we said. Leave him for an hour, circle back, watch him freak out. It would be hilarious. My name is Ashley, and 15 years ago, I made the worst decision of my life. Not marrying Derek, that was just stupid. Not letting my friends treat him like garbage for 5 years, that was cruel. But leaving him at that gas station in the middle of nowhere, that was the moment I destroyed everything good I'd ever have. The road trip to Madison's lake house had been her idea. "Come on, Ash," she'd said, sprawled across my couch with a glass of wine. "When's the last time we all got away? Just us girls and your boring husband." I should have defended him. Should have said Derek wasn't boring, just quiet. That he worked hard at his accounting job, came home every night, made me dinner when I worked late. But I just rolled my eyes and said I'd ask him. The truth was, I was getting bored. 5 years of marriage, and the excitement had worn off. Derek was predictable, safe. He'd rather stay home watching documentaries than go out. He wore the same rotation of polo shirts. He got nervous at parties, standing in corners while I worked the room. He'd rub my feet when I was tired, bring me tea when I had cramps, ask before touching my laundry. And for some reason, that made me cringe instead of feel cared for. My friends noticed everything. "God, how do you stand it?" Britney would ask when Derek excused himself early from another bar night. "He's like an old man." "At least he's loyal," Jade would add, but the way she said it made loyalty sound like a consolation prize. I started seeing him through their eyes, the way he asked permission before making plans, how he'd bring me flowers every Friday, the same grocery store bouquet, the careful way he'd check if I needed anything before bed. It all started feeling suffocating instead of sweet. The lake house trip was supposed to be different. I convinced myself Derek needed to loosen up, bond with my friends. Maybe if they saw him relaxed, they'd stop the jokes. Maybe I'd stop seeing him as a burden. The first day was disaster. Derek tried to help with dinner, but Madison shooed him away, saying men just got in the way. He offered to drive into town for supplies, but Britney said she didn't trust his navigation skills. Every attempt he made to fit in got shot down. "Why does he hover?" Jade whispered to me that night as Derek sat alone on the deck reading. "It's weird." "He's just trying to be helpful," I said, but I was already irritated. Why couldn't he just relax? Why did he have to try so hard? The prank started as Madison's idea on the second night. We were drinking margaritas, Derek already in bed, when she brought it up. "We should mess with him tomorrow," she said, eyes gleaming, like really scare him. "What do you mean?" I asked, already knowing I shouldn't encourage her. "Leave him somewhere just for a bit. Can you imagine his face?" Britney clapped her hands. "Oh my God, Maddie, yes, he would just lose his mind." Jade swirled her margarita. "I don't know, isn't that a little much?" she said, looking right at me, a challenge in her eyes. "He's so sensitive." The way she said sensitive made it sound like a disease. The idea of shocking him out of it was suddenly powerfully appealing. We refined it over the next hour. We'd stop for gas on the way home. He'd go in to use the bathroom. We'd drive off, circle back in an hour. Just long enough to freak him out, teach him to lighten up. "He needs this," Madison insisted. "Builds character." "Plus, it'll be hilarious," Jade added. I agreed. I actually agreed. 5 margaritas in, surrounded by my best friends, I thought leaving my husband at a gas station would be good for him. The next morning, Derek made us all breakfast. Eggs, bacon, fresh fruit he'd cut up carefully. My friends picked at it, complaining about the eggs being too runny, the bacon too crispy. He just smiled and cleaned up their plates. "Ready to head back?" he asked me, drying his hands on a dish towel. "Yeah, let's pack up," I said, not meeting his eyes. The drive started normal. Derek sat in the back, letting Madison have the passenger seat. She controlled the music, blasting songs he obviously hated but never complained about. Britney and Jade chattered about work drama. I watched him in the rearview mirror reading his book, completely unaware of what was coming. The gas station appeared around noon, a dusty little stop with one pump and a sun-bleached sign. Perfect. "I need to pee," Madison announced loudly. "And get snacks." "I'll fill up," I said, pulling in. Derek looked up from his book. "Want me to pump the gas?" "No, I got it, but maybe use the bathroom. It's a long drive still." He nodded, marking his page carefully before heading inside. Always so careful. Always so predictable. I filled the tank, hands shaking slightly. Madison came out with an armload of junk food, Britney and Jade trailing behind. "He's in there," Britney whispered, sliding into the back seat. "This is it," Madison said, practically vibrating with excitement. "Let's go!" "Wait," I said, suddenly uncertain. "Maybe we should—" "Ashley, come on, it's just a joke. 1 hour, he'll be fine." I looked at the bathroom door, still closed. Derek was in there, probably washing his hands twice, like always, trusting me to be outside when he came out. "Drive," Jade said, "before you chicken out." I looked at the door one last time, imagined him stepping out, smiling like he always did when he spotted me, trusting me, loving me. And then I pressed the gas pedal. The first few minutes were electric. We were all screaming, laughing, Madison recording a video on her phone. "Derek's going to die," she kept saying. "This is the best day ever." I watched the gas station disappear in my mirrors, my heart pounding. We'd really done it. We'd actually left him. "An hour," I said, more to myself than them. "We'll give him an hour." "Make it 2, Britney suggested. "Really let it sink in." 2 hours. I could do 2 hours. Derek would be mad, sure, but he'd get over it. He always did. That was the thing about Derek. He forgave everything. Every eye roll, every dismissed suggestion, every night I chose my friends over him. He just took it. We stopped at a diner about 30 miles away. I couldn't eat, my stomach churning, but my friends ordered huge meals, still giddy from the prank. "You should see your face," Madison said, pointing a fry at me. "You look like you killed someone." What if he's really scared? Good, maybe he'll finally show some emotion besides, "Would you like me to do the dishes?" They all laughed. I forced myself to join in. But halfway through the meal, I excused myself to the restroom, locked the door, and sobbed silently over the sink. Then I fixed my mascara and went back out like nothing happened. My phone started ringing after the first hour. Derek's name on the screen made my chest tight. I declined it. "Don't answer," Jade advised. "It ruins the effect." More calls came, then texts. "Ashley, where are you? Please call me. I'm worried." I turned my phone off. We lingered at the diner, my friends drawing out the meal. 2 hours became 3. 3 became 4. The sun was starting to set when Madison finally said we could head back. "He's probably hitchhiking by now," Britney joked. The comment hit me like cold water. What if he was? What if something happened to him? The road back felt longer, my hands gripping the wheel too tight. My friends had moved on to other topics. Work gossip, dating drama. But all I could think about was Derek, standing in that parking lot, realizing we weren't coming back. When we finally pulled into the gas station, the parking lot was empty. No Derek pacing around. No Derek sitting on the curb. The bathroom door was open, showing nothing but darkness inside. "Where is he?" I asked, my voice high and strange. Madison shrugged. "Probably got a ride, see? He figured it out." But I knew Derek. He wouldn't just leave, he'd wait. He'd believe I was coming back because that's what he did. He believed in me. even when I didn't deserve it. I turned my phone back on to dozens of missed calls. Not from Derek. From his phone, yes, but the last few were from an unknown number. My throat went dry as I listened to the voicemails. The first ones were Derek, confused but calm. "Hey, I think you forgot me. I'm at the gas station. Call me back." Then worried, "Ashley, it's been an hour. Please call me." Then desperate. "I don't know what's happening. Please just let me know you're okay." The last one was from a trucker who'd found Derek's phone on the ground. "Ma'am, I found this phone at the Conoco off Highway 50. The man who left it seemed real shaken up. I tried to help, but he wouldn't say much. Hope he's all right. Thought you should know." "He left his phone," I said numbly. "So?" Madison said. "He'll figure it out. Come on, let's go back to your place. I'm exhausted." But I couldn't move. Derek was out there somewhere with no phone, no wallet. I realized with growing horror it was in the glove box. No way to contact anyone. And it was getting dark. "We have to find him," I said. "Ashley, he's a grown man," Britney said, irritation creeping into her voice. "He'll be fine." "You don't understand. His wallet's in the car. He has nothing." "Then he should have grabbed it," Jade said simply. I stared at them, these women I'd called my best friends, and saw them clearly for the first time. They didn't care. They'd never cared. Derek was just a joke to them, and I'd let myself become part of it. I drove along the highway slowly, looking for any sign of him. My friends complained the whole time. They were tired, hungry, bored. When we finally gave up and headed home, they were barely speaking to me. "You're being dramatic," Madison said when I dropped her off. "He'll turn up." But he didn't. I filed a missing person report the next day, my hands shaking as I filled out the paperwork. The officer looked at me with barely concealed disgust when I explained what happened. "You left your husband at a gas station as a prank?" he repeated. "We were going to come back," I said weakly. "After how long?" "A couple hours." He shook his head and took the report, but I could see what he thought of me. What kind of wife does that? Days passed. No word. I called hospitals, police stations in Colorado, homeless shelters. Nothing. Derek had vanished, and it was my fault. I'd taken the one person who truly loved me and thrown him away like garbage, all for a laugh with friends who dropped me the second things got serious. "You're obsessing," Madison told me when I called her crying a week later. "He's probably just teaching you a lesson." But that wasn't Derek. He didn't play games or hold grudges. If he wasn't calling, it was because he couldn't. Or wouldn't. Maybe he'd finally had enough. The divorce papers came 3 months later, forwarded from a lawyer in Colorado. No personal note, no explanation, just paperwork stating abandonment and request for dissolution of marriage. I signed them with shaking hands, knowing I had no right to fight. I lost the marketing job after staring at a single spreadsheet for 3 hours, the numbers blurring into the gas station's sun-bleached sign. My boss had the same look of barely concealed disgust as the police officer had. My friends faded away after that. The drama was fun when it was happening, but my grief was inconvenient. Madison stopped returning my calls. Britney unfriended me on social media. Jade sent one last text saying I needed to move on already. I spent years wondering what happened to Derek after we drove away. Did he try to walk somewhere? Did he get picked up by someone kind? Did he hate me in those moments, or was he still hoping I'd come back? I threw myself into work, then dating, then anything to fill the Derek-shaped hole in my life. I married a man named Travis who cheated within a year, started a business that failed when my partner embezzled funds, lost job after job because I couldn't focus, couldn't commit, couldn't trust anyone, including myself. Because that's what leaving Derek really taught me. Not that he was boring or needed to lighten up, but that I was the kind of person who would abandon someone who loved me for the approval of people who didn't. I was weak, cruel, and when tested, I'd chosen the absolute worst option. 10 years passed before I tried to find him. I'd hired a private investigator with the last of my savings after my second divorce. It took him 3 months to track Derek down in Grand Junction, Colorado, of all places. He owned restaurants, 3 of them, had a wife, kids, a life that looked impossibly good from the outside. "You want more details?" the investigator asked. "No," I said. What would be the point? To see exactly what I'd thrown away? But I couldn't help myself. I looked him up online, spent hours clicking through the few photos available. Derek, older but handsome, standing in front of what looked like a diner. Derek with a beautiful woman who gazed at him like he hung the moon. Derek pushing kids on swings. The kind of father I'd always known he'd be. He'd built all of this after I left him with nothing. Less than nothing. He'd been tested in the worst possible way and came out stronger, while I'd revealed my true character and fallen apart. I started the LinkedIn stalking 5 years ago. 27 times in one day was excessive, I knew, but I couldn't stop myself. His profile was basic, just enough information to torment me. Owner of 3 diners. Married, living in Colorado where I'd abandoned him, like he'd planted roots in the spot where his old life ended. Madison reached out last month. Found me on Facebook with a message that read like nothing had changed. "Hey girl, long time. Britt and I were talking about taking a trip. You in?" I stared at that message for an hour. She had no idea what she'd helped destroy. None of them did. To them, Derek was still just that boring guy who couldn't take a joke. They'd probably told the story a dozen times over the years, laughing about the prank we pulled, maybe wondering whatever happened to Ashley's dull husband. I finally wrote back, "I'm free. Where are you thinking?" Because the truth was, I needed them. My life was in ruins. Another failed relationship, mounting debt, a studio apartment that smelled like the Indian restaurant downstairs. Madison had money from her 3rd husband. Maybe she'd help out her old friend. The plan formed slowly. We'd take a road trip for old time's sake. I'd mention being low on funds, hint about tough times. They'd offer to help because that's what friends did, right? And if we happened to pass through Grand Junction, if I happened to know Derek owned diners there, if we happened to stop at one, well, maybe seeing him successful would give me closure. Or maybe he'd see me and remember the good times before that day. Maybe his wife wasn't that pretty in person. Maybe he was miserable too, just better at hiding it. Maybe there was still a chance for something, anything, to make this crushing guilt go away. Madison picked me up in a rented Mercedes, Britney riding shotgun just like old times. They looked exactly the same. Designer clothes, perfect hair, that same sharp laugh that used to make me feel included. Now it sounded like nails on glass. "God, you look rough," Madison said, hugging me. "What happened?" Everything, I wanted to say. Everything fell apart the day we drove away from that gas station. But I just shrugged and made excuses about work stress. The drive to Colorado was torture. They reminisced about the good old days, including that day. "Remember when we left Derek at that gas station?" Brittany laughed. "I still can't believe we did that." "He ever turn up?" Madison asked, glancing at me in the rearview mirror. "Yeah," I lied. "Took a bus home. We divorced not long after." "Well, duh," she said. "He was never right for you anyway." Jade couldn't make it. Something about her kid's recital, but she texted constantly, sending old photos and inside jokes. One was from that trip, all of us at the lake house. I was in focus, laughing at something off camera. In the background, blurry but visible, was Derek, reading his book alone on the deck. When I suggested we stop in Grand Junction for lunch, nobody questioned it. Madison just plugged it into the GPS and kept driving. My hands were sweating as we entered the city limits. I'd looked up Derek's diners online. They were all small local places, the kind you'd have to know about to find. "There's a cute place called Jacqueline's," I said, trying to sound casual. "Good reviews." "Sure," Madison shrugged. "I could eat." The diner was exactly what I'd expected. Small, crowded, smelling like coffee and grease. We grabbed a booth by the window and I watched the kitchen, trying to catch a glimpse of him. Nothing. Then he walked out. 15 years older, but unmistakably Derek. He was wiping his hands on an apron, heading to the counter with a coffee pot. He looked good, really good. Stronger, more confident, moving through the space like he owned it. Which he did. Madison saw him first. "Oh my God," she whispered, grabbing my arm. "Is that?" He saw us at the same moment. The coffee pot stopped mid-pour. His face went through about 10 different emotions before settling on something cold and unreadable. Then he finished pouring the coffee, set the pot down, and walked over. "Derek," I said, my voice barely working. "Hi." He stood there looking at us, and I saw myself through his eyes. 3 middle-aged women in 2 expensive clothes, out of place in his diner. Madison trying to look casual. Britney shrinking into the booth, me desperate and obvious. "What do you want?" he asked. Not "how are you?" Not "what are you doing here?" Straight to the point, like he already knew. "We were just passing through," I started, but he cut me off. "No, you weren't. What do you want?" The words tumbled out. My business failing, my marriage is ending, being broke, desperate, sorry, so sorry. Madison jumped in with her charm, Brittany nodding along, but Derek just stood there looking tired. "Wait here," he said finally and walked away. "He's gone to call the cops," Brittany hissed, sliding to the edge of the booth. "Ashley, we have to go now." But I was paralyzed. This was it, the final scene. When he returned, he wasn't with a manager, but holding a small plain white envelope. My breath caught. For one insane second, I thought it was a letter, a phone number, an invitation to talk. My fingers were so numb I could barely tear it open. Inside was a check. My eyes struggled to focus on the numbers written in a firm, decisive hand. $73.50. "What the hell is this?" Madison snapped, snatching it from my hand. "Is this a joke?" Derek leaned over our table, and for the first time I could smell the coffee on his apron, see the fine lines around his eyes. His voice was quiet, devoid of all emotion. "It's the cost of a bus ticket from the Conoco on Highway 50 to our old address. That's how much it would have cost me to get away from you. I didn't have it then. But now, I can afford to let you go." The words didn't feel like blows. They felt like scalpels, cutting away the last of my pathetic hope. He hadn't just remembered, he'd done the math. Madison shoved the check toward his chest. "This is insulting!" "No," he said, his eyes finally meeting mine. They were calm. Empty. "Insulting is a prank. What you did was abandonment. This is a settlement." He straightened up, his voice rising just enough for the tables nearby to hear. "Now get out of my restaurant. Don't come back." He straightened up, louder now. "Time to go. Don't come back." We sat there frozen as he walked away. The whole diner was staring. Madison's face was red. Brittany was already gathering her purse. But I couldn't move. Couldn't breathe. He'd given me exactly what I'd given him. Just enough to leave. I used to think he'd look back one day and forgive me. But he didn't even flinch. The man I'd crushed had learned to live without me, and I'd never learned to live with myself. Outside in the parking lot, they turned on each other immediately. "This was your idea," Madison snarled at me. "You knew he was here." "I didn't." "Don't lie. You've been pathetic about him for years. God, Ashley, he's moved on. He has a whole life, and you're still stuck on some guy who couldn't even take a joke." "It wasn't a joke!" The words exploded out of me. "We left him with nothing. We destroyed his life." "He seems fine to me," Brittany said coldly. "Better than you, anyway." They drove me to the bus station in silence. Madison handed me $100 for a ticket somewhere else, and they left without saying goodbye. Just like we'd left Derek, except he hadn't had anyone give him bus money. I sat in that station for hours, the check still in my hand. $73.50, the exact price of abandonment calculated to the penny. Derek had survived what we did to him, thrived even, built a life that didn't include me, would never include me. The worst part was seeing him happy. Not gloating or bitter, just complete. He had a wife who loved him, kids who knew him as a good man, a business he'd built from nothing. He'd taken the worst thing I could do to him and turned it into the foundation for something better. While I'd spent 15 years falling apart, haunted by that gas station, he'd simply moved forward. The boring, predictable man I'd thrown away had become someone remarkable. And I was exactly who I'd always been, someone weak enough to abandon a good man for the approval of awful friends. I used the $100 Madison gave me for a ticket back to Phoenix, not the $73.50. That check is still in my wallet, uncashed. A reminder of what things really cost. Derek knew I wouldn't cash it. It wasn't about the money. It was about showing me exactly what I was worth to him now. The price of a bus ticket away from his life. The apartment smelled worse when I got back. Everything felt smaller, shabbier. I sat on my air mattress, couldn't afford a real bed anymore, and thought about Derek's diners, 3 of them. He'd started with nothing, less than nothing, and built all that. I'd started with everything, a devoted husband, a stable life, friends I thought cared about me, and threw it all away for a laugh that wasn't even funny. The joke, it turned out, was on me. It had always been on me. Madison texted once, after that day, "Delete my number." Britney blocked me on everything. The friends I'd chosen over my husband, who I'd let poison my marriage, vanished the second things got ugly. Just like they'd vanished when Derek went missing all those years ago. Fair weather friends in designer clothes, leaving destruction in their wake. I think about that day at the gas station constantly. Derek walking out of that bathroom, probably thinking about the long drive ahead, maybe planning to offer to drive so I could rest. Finding an empty parking lot. The confusion turning to disbelief, then to devastation. How long did he wait before accepting we weren't coming back? Did he try to rationalize it, make excuses for me? Or did he know immediately what kind of person he'd married? I didn't just laugh along. I planned it. I poured the gas. I turned the key. I made sure the doors were locked. The investigator had mentioned one detail I couldn't forget. Derek never remarried for 8 years after our divorce. 8 years of building his life alone before he met his now wife. I'd like to think he was healing, learning to trust again. But maybe he just needed that long to believe someone wouldn't leave him at a gas station as a joke. I've started writing him letters I'll never send. Long, rambling apologies that try to explain what I can't explain to myself. How did I become someone who could do that? When did I start seeing his kindness as weakness, his stability as boring, his love as something to mock? The truth is, I was always that person. Derek just brought out something better in me for a while, and I resented him for it. It was easier to be cruel with Madison and the others. Easier to be careless and selfish and small. He made me want to be good, and I hated the effort it required. So I let them convince me he needed to change, that he was the problem, that abandoning him would somehow fix what was wrong with us. But the only thing wrong with us was me. Now I sit in this cramped apartment, eating ramen for the 3rd night in a row, and think about Derek cooking breakfast for my ungrateful friends. The way he carefully cut up fruit, made sure everyone had what they needed. He was showing love the only way he knew how, and we threw it back in his face. His wife probably appreciates those gestures, sees them for what they are, not boring or predictable, but consistent and caring. She probably thanks him for the coffee, kisses him goodbye, never takes for granted that he'll be there when she gets home. Because she knows what a gift that is. I had it for 5 years and threw it away for friends who wouldn't lend me bus fare now. The check is still in my wallet. I pull it out sometimes, run my fingers over his signature. It's different from the one I remember, more confident, decisive, like everything about him now. He signed that check knowing exactly what he was doing, what he was saying. You're worth this much to me. No more, no less. The exact cost of getting away from you. $73.50. The price of my cruelty, calculated down to the penny. The bill for a joke that was never funny finally come due. He paid it forward, and now I'm the one left stranded, no gas station in sight, just endless empty highway and the knowledge that I did this to myself. Derek built an empire from the wreckage I left him in. And all I have is this check, proof that I was never worth more than the price of leaving me behind. I used to laugh at that memory. Now it makes me sick. The friends are gone, the marriages are over, the money's spent, and somewhere in Colorado, Derek is closing up one of his diners, heading home to his real family, living a life that proves the best revenge isn't revenge at all. It's just living well without the people who never deserved you in the first place. I was one of those people, the worst of them, because I promised to love and protect him, and instead I offered him up as entertainment for people who weren't worth his time. Or mine, as it turned out. The joke was on me all along. Derek just had to wait 15 years for me to finally get it. And when I did, sitting in that bus station with his check in my hand, it wasn't funny at all. It was exactly what I deserved. A bus ticket to nowhere, paid for by the man I abandoned, who turned empty pockets into a full life, one that didn't include me.